of the work that's going on at the police department, and a tour of a good part of the community that I never have seen before. And I want to thank you, Chief, for that time that you spent with me. I know that you probably had a lot better things to do than to drive me around and talk to me, but I do appreciate your time. It was valuable. Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Bertie. Charlene?
It's always has, you know, he's the one that has to go and deal with everybody's issues, and something got run over and the road was blocked and this and that and what have you. The multitude of issues that these folks have dealt with, 100-year-old gas lines and having to replace them, and they're 8 feet from where they're marked they're supposed to be, and et cetera, is not easy. And those folks pretty much, except for a couple of angry flaggers, pretty much they've had smiles on their faces, and Steve in particular has. Most of this work's happened in my district, like 95% of it's happened in my district. So boy, have I had a lot of issues to deal with him, and, you know, residents' concerns and just all the problems that have happened. And that guy's always got a smile on his face. He shows up, he deals with it. And our own Vince Mayerscale too has been out there being the eyes for the city on this project and kind of overseeing the contractors, and that's not been easy either. Thank you. And Vince a few times has had to actually go and be the soother of the ruffled feathers. So thank you for doing that, Vince. And I'd also like to just acknowledge, I know I've brought these folks up before, but you know, they continue to go above and beyond. In our public works, Richard Thomas and Joe Gonzalez, they worked all weekend last weekend. They're doing the drywall over there at the police station, which has saved us, I don't even know, thousands and thousands of dollars. And so they worked all weekend so they could get the drywall all finished before the carpet installers were coming on Monday to get that done. So thank you to them again, John. Please pass that on. I want them to know that we really do acknowledge what's going on and how much they do. And then lastly, I attended the Nob Hill Block Watch group, and we've got a couple of folks from that group here. Thanks for being in existence, because you're the last Block Watch group in this city. Thank you for being there, and doing what you do, you know, being aware of what's going on. And Officer Venezuela, he came, Jay, yes, is that how you properly say? Okay, he came to that meeting as well, and we'd like to thank him for coming, and just that the police care about the residents' concerns and send somebody, and you know, it really helps. It helps the folks know what to do and what the police think is the best thing to do. So thanks there, and that's all I have.
That's it. Thank you, Charlene. Okay, Jesse, you next.
I just have an update on the chamber. We had an amazing annual chamber meeting, and we welcome new board members. We also wanted to congratulate Ellen on her upcoming retirement. With that, let everybody know that the chamber is accepting resumes for director. So that's exciting news. I mean, Ellen's done a great job. So I want to make sure if you see her out there, congratulate her. Other than that, I have nothing else. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse. I just have a few things. I was fortunate last week to host a couple of dinners at the restaurant. The first one was for the Homeless Coalition. They did all the work. I just happened to host the building and the meal for them. And it turned out it was about a 2-hour meal. And I think we served about 30 to 40 people. So it's really important for that group for their census to get a count on the actual homeless population that we have here in Globe. So that was really a good thing. I've done it 3 years in a row now, so I plan on continuing that. And then the second dinner was a really cool dinner. It was a foreign exchange dinner that the Lions Club put on, and they had 18 students from all over Europe that came in and had dinner on Saturday night. And it was really cool to see the different cultures. They had salad, chicken fried steak, mashed potatoes, and a veggie dessert. And I would say 16 out of the 18 students didn't know what ranch dressing was. Seriously? I go, no, we have no idea what that is. And then the one kid from Italy asked for Italian dressing. He goes, that's not Italian dressing. So it's okay, sorry. But it was really cool. So I just want to let everybody know that. And then I'd like to acknowledge Jerry Jennings. Thank you for coming in this evening. I appreciate it. And Anna, of course, Anna. You're always welcome to do that. And then lastly, I'd like to take a moment of silence for the Hall family and the Fisher family who lost a family member last week. So I'd like to take a moment of silence for that, and also for the Pastor family. I'd like to include that as well. So if we could all just take a moment of silence. Thank you. And that's all I have. Well,
Mr. Vice Mayor, members of council, thank you. The no, I'm glad to see Jerry here and the board member. He runs a tight ship. July 3rd at 6 o'clock was their meeting, right before a 4-day weekend, and they're doing the people's work. And AJ and I attended representing the city. And then we'll have the SRO issue on the agenda tonight. Also, just a quick reminder, I'll be leaving tomorrow afternoon to Tucson for the ACMA conference, summer conference. It's Arizona City County Managers Association, where I get together with all the other city and county managers and have training, networking, find out what's up. I do believe recycling will be will be trash talking, so a lot. Yes, because it's happening everywhere. And it does remind me, I think we did see that the county pulled their bins, their recycling bins.
they did.
Yes. So, because they were having the same issue that we were having, and then they were turning into just wet trash, and it was so we'll be talking about recycling and trash in next couple of 1 or 2 meetings ahead from here as a city, as we get back on track. The last thing, and this one I'm probably going to lean on Vincent and John in a second, but we have the Broad Street paving project, and it's a big project for us. You've seen the beauty of Hill and Oak, what we can do. We have a contract out to pave from Mesquite. I was thinking from Yuma, but it's from Mesquite all the way to Cottonwood. Okay, which seems simple, but it does put up some issues with detour routes. We got word on Friday. We finally got a traffic plan this morning. We said we're going to go, and so they are going to be closing down Broad Street from Mesquite. We will be closing down Broad Street from Mesquite to Cottonwood at 5 o'clock on Sunday. They're going to mill all night, and I know a couple cops, and Vince will probably be out there, keeping an eye on them. And then they'll loop right back into, they'll mill it, they'll clean it, and they'll pave it. And Broad Street will be closed till 8 p.m. Monday evening. So it's about 27 hours. We're working on the detour plan. The good thing is for North Broad Street, you can drive up to Bailey and park, and we think walk into any stores during that Monday afternoon. From the south side, because they're paving the intersection of Cottonwood, then as you go north on South Broad, you can't make that right-hand turn Sycamore or left to go to Pine, and so the only way around will be going uphill, basically from Connie's Bridge. Now it'll all be open for local traffic, and so the library, and I think the library had something going on. She says, "Do you mind if I close down for that Monday?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, sure, go ahead." It's like, so that'll actually make things a little bit simpler. But we're worried about the pickle barrel and things like that. And then so we're putting together a detailed, not only a public service announcement on on the closures, and staff will be going door to door to the people who'll be impacted. But we're also putting down recommendations on how to get to where you need to go. So in the draft I'm working on right now, we're talking about, so if you're trying to get to Dr. Andrade's office, go to Oak and Pine. If you're trying to get to CVS, go Oak and Pine. If you're trying to get to Zona Ice, go Cedar and Pine. If you're trying to get to Globe Hair, go Oak and Hill, and try to give people cross streets. Now they'll have to approach from Hill for the southeast side, and mainly Pine from the west side. But it gets complicated up by the Huddle, and so I may make a special trip over there.
Good idea.
Go see Tracy personally. Okay, and so explain, and so she won't be closed down.
Soon, because
yeah,
you don't
no,
want to hear this the day before.
No, I'm going to stop by Tracy, and then I'm heading to Tucson.
All right. I'm gonna text her right now.
No, text her. I'll be coming by tomorrow.
I will.
Okay, and explain this. We will get this, and Vince, come up here and help me with what I haven't said. Yeah. Okay, we'll put it in Facebook, we'll put it on the website, walking door to door to the people who are, and what we found last time is not the people directly impacted, it's people who are caught up in the detours and things like that. So we're gonna work on some of those, but what am I missing? What have
I think you got it. They'll have it all marked, they're gonna have signs posted everywhere.
Are they closing these sidewalks? And that was something that Jody and I were looking at right before the meeting.
The sidewalks will be open.
But the sidewalks parallel to Broad. Yeah, so if you want to go, if you need to get to something, you can park at Bailey and just walk down and get further. Yes. So we think it's not going to be nearly, it's not creating the island that we did with Oak and Hill Street, where you had Safeway in the middle of the island that you could not get to.
Right.
But we're trying to do a better job of the detour routes and the what was it, and just in letting people know. But the good thing is 24 hours, rip the Band-Aid off. We got everything happening, not extended closure. We're not doing half a lane this day, half a lane that way. And John, you tell us about, I mean, you kind of were orchestrated getting this pulled together.
Yeah, one thing I did want to add on for Vice Mayor and Council, and mostly specifically our business owners and public. We did have our public meeting recently, so we do have a compiled list of emails of the merchants that were here in attendance. So that's actually, that email will go out to send to them, but we're also putting together, we're going to go between myself, Vincent, and Jody are planning on making those visits tomorrow. So that I know that's a key element, but also one thing that we're looking calendar wise is we know that school starts on the 29th. So we've kind of looked at calendar wise. That's why it's Sunday into Monday, we're affecting one main day. We know it's an inconvenience, but if we did the one lane at a time, like we had talked in our public meeting, it actually extends it to a 3 or 4 day period. So that's why we're just basically, like Paul mentioned, we're going in there and it's going to get done. And the Oak Hill project, we know how it was prolonged and because of weather and different issues we have. This one's basically literally steamrolling and it's going to come in and go back out. So we're just really trying to step that up. I have already made additional signage for business access. So I've got those ready. Once we start doing the traffic zone and everything, I'm ready to put those up in areas that you might have you might not be able to see them so well. So I want to make sure that was pointed out because those are some of the things that were brought up in our public.
That meeting, yeah. And John, thank you for, at that meeting, we had everybody sign up with the emails and then we were going to give them all the contact numbers of who they call, what issues, if it's a utility company or paving or what have you, whatever the issues are. So John compiled that list and got it out to everybody this week. Thank you.
Thank you.
John, Southwest Cast, are they going to be working down there at the same time? No. At Hackney?
They should be done.
Okay.
One more thing. Also, after the paving comes the striping. So a day or so after, or a couple days after the paving, a striping crew will come in. They're not going to do any closures. They're just going to drive down the road and paint while traffic's going. So there'll be that. So that's coming.
And then the parking, I know the parking gets dicey because
For painting the stripes. On
yeah,
the
because if you're not parked exactly where you're supposed to be.
Yeah, so there'll be some. They're not going to do closures, but they're going to go ahead like early in the morning, put no parking signs, and then just paint them and move them.
So they got a little go-kart and they don't want to overspray vehicles.
Right. Also, another road closure that's coming up is also in your neighborhood up there is our water line project is starting
Soon.
Monday. So now that the gas has moved out of there, we're going in with the water, so that's coming up. So be prepared.
Freddie, you have a question?
Actually, I'd just like to make a comment. You know, I want to thank you for taking the time to plan this out, and I really would hope that our business owners and our citizens understand and realize that, you know, the city is making a concerted effort to upgrade downtown, new roads, new striping, to beautify the area and make it a nice driving path for decades to come. And, you know, you're planning to work through the night and just, you know, really push our contractors to provide as least impact as possible to our residents. So I would just make a public plea that, you know, everybody just be patient during this 2-3 day event so that our contractors and the city can get this project done. It's not like we planned this overnight. You know, this takes long, drawn out planning and coordinating with contractors. And if I'm not mistaken, I think they even have backup equipment in case something fails. They're ready to remobilize with backup equipment. So, you know, that's, I mean, that just shows that the contractor and the city are putting together a good, solid plan. You know, to bring a machine out that is not being used, you know, that costs money to not use that machine and have it mobilized here. So I think this is a great plan, and I wish you the best. I really do. I know it's going to be a strenuous 3 days. So.
Mr. Mayor and Council, yeah, I mean, it's a long drive with a bunch of trucks of hot asphalt to get up here and find the asphalt machines busted, and
Right.
and it's all gonna, you know, so they plan it well. It went well before. Knock on wood, it goes well here. The other thing that I lesson learned from the last time is definitely get with the doctors and hairdressers, Globe Hair. Make sure, because they have people who have appointments on Monday. I mean, it's tough to tell people. It's like, really, you know, it's 5 days away and you're telling, or 6 days away and you're telling us now. But that's a lead in when we get the opening, when we get the equipment lined up. We need to see the traffic plan so we knew how to roll this out. It's different than if we had put something out on Friday, we would have been wrong. And because things have changed since then, and we had to adjust. So it's hard to tell people we have, you know, as soon as we know and can lock it in, and we didn't get the final go or no go till right about lunchtime today. And so, but people make doctor's appointments 3 weeks out, 4 weeks out, and we got to make sure that whoever's trying to get there, because we have mobility issues, that they can get there too. So that's why we're going door to door, and they'll talk to them, and hopefully, you know, nobody's doctor appointment will get messed up. So, but Mr. Mayor, members of council, that's all I have for you. And thank you. John, Vince, thank you.
John, thanks, Vince. Thank you, Paul. Okay, next on the agenda is the first community call to the public. Do you have any questions? Nothing? Okay. Then we'll go on to presentations and ceremonial matters. Presentations, proclamations, awards, guest introductions, and announcements. Number A, presentation of the possibilities of agritourism within the city of Globe. Chris?
That one to the right, that'll do it. If you can point it at this.
Good evening, Vice Mayor and members of the council. City staff has been approached by about the possibility of bringing in agritourism. The first question is, what the heck is agritourism? And it says here it's a form of commercial enterprise that links agricultural production and our processing with tourism. So cool, you got these guys come up and harvest your hay for you or whatever, and that's cool. So they can, you know, this is for farms, ranches, all this stuff, but it also, they do a lot of other things. They bring in weddings to ranches, and they do all kinds of different things. And one of the things is they have, you know, petting zoos and stuff. That's a big thing here. And we got donkeys and goats and little kids having fun. And so why do they do this? Well, they do this to expand their business, to increase their profits. So there's educational advantages to this, where school tours, all kinds of tours, and you talk about history of the area and stuff. And so you'd also have, when people come in to experience these things, they could sell directly whatever product they're doing there. And so how do we make this legal? Council would end up needing to amend the zoning code to allow a lot of this stuff, especially with some of these animals and stuff that are part of this agritourism that are currently prohibited. So right now they're looking at different types of animals you might have, and some of the things we got on this list have been already okay by council, but right now we have the pygmy goats and mini donkeys, but potbelly pigs are currently legal, and the hens are currently legal, and ducks would need to change. And I don't understand why we don't like geese, but
Honk, honk.
and then peacocks.
That's why. Peacocks too. Have you ever heard of peacock?
Oh yeah,
They scream. I love them. They're beautiful birds, but they
oh they are. And guinea hens and stuff. They're also really noisy things. But we could maybe it'd be easier to put together a list of prohibited animals instead of what we could have it there. So initial code parameters. Well, first off, this would only be because this is for business, it'd be for commercial areas. And we don't want people breeding many donkeys or anything like that. That's for a different place. We have minimal distances. What's that?
I'll keep it to myself.
But we have on here, it says minimal distances from residential. But what this really boils down to, we don't want one business doing something that's going to affect other people, be it other businesses or be it residential. So we have acreage requirements, then numbers of animals and stuff, compliance with nuisance requirements with noise and smells and all that stuff, and flies and everything. So anyway, this could all be done with a conditional use permit. That, okay, you want to do this, here's the conditions, you got to follow these conditions, and if you fail these conditions, you're going to lose your permit. You get 30 days to where these conditions aren't upsetting the neighbors, and be it you have to take your peacocks out to a friendly ranch to give them away. I don't know what it takes, but anyway, so we went animal safety, hygiene, food, inspection requirements to avoid neglect. You don't want anybody stealing these animals or having them escape. And I don't think we would put actual feed requirements on there, but we require that they would be, if there are animals, that they would be held safely and fed and watered and all that stuff. So the next step in timelines, if council chooses to move this forward, would be to change the zoning code. And the way you do that is it's got to go through Planning and Zoning Commission, where they would make recommendations to council. And then council would either accept, enhance, or whatever their recommendations. Then we'd adopt a new ordinance changing these. Now, as far as the timeline, if we started today, probably take about 6 to 8 weeks to get this done. We have public hearing notices that are required by law that have to go out for 2 weeks. Finding this time of the year, finding the P&Z commissioners that aren't on vacation, that we could get a quorum together, that sort of stuff. So that's why we put 6 to 8 weeks as far as getting that done. So here's the slide for questions.
Oh, go ahead.
Just a comment. My daughter sent me a picture this past weekend. She goes to school in Tucson at the U of A, but she drove to somewhere in Scottsdale to do with a friend of hers. They had this yoga with goats.
Oh, yes.
And that seems to be a really big thing. And the smile on her face was just, she thoroughly enjoyed it. There's no doubt about it. And I think if we can, if she's going to drive from Tucson to Scottsdale to do that, that's a draw, obviously. And I think this council probably should really strongly consider something of this nature to help our businesses. I'm not saying we have to have a yoga with goats, but if our businesses think that that can bring some economic development in this area, I think we really need to consider this.
We don't have to limit this to agriculture. We could, if a big car lot, it's got plenty of room. If they have a little petting zoo there, they could do that too. If somebody wanted to set up a little business where they have prospecting or gold panning or something like that, they could have some donkeys like prospectors had, and so that sort of thing. It's kind of a pretty broad spectrum of what can happen with.
Right.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, members of council, every time we bring an animal code change, there's usually a story behind it. So I was going to ask Linda to step up and talk about kind of how we came to bring this idea forward.
Thank you. Good evening. So when we met with Tim and Daisy last week, I believe it was, this adds another layer to their business development. So that parents can come with their families, they can enjoy the tasting room, and then the kids can enjoy a little learning experience, handling the animals, learning what they do on their farm, because Daisy had explained that the mini donkeys would be used in the harvesting, and they also utilize the manure to compost, so because it takes tons and tons and tons to fertilize. I think she said they do it 4 times a year to fertilize all of their grapevines. So this is a way for them to be a sustainable operation. I think it's great that we have this model here in our community. This past weekend, my family and I, we went to Southern California and we spent half a day picking strawberries in the fields, and it was a blast. So it was something that my kids saw and they wanted to do, and they had a animal little pen. They had little donkeys and goats, and yes, they did have goat yoga, and that's it's a real thing.
They do the same concept in Young at the vineyard there.
At Brucey's.
They have alpaca farm there. So.
Exactly. Oh, and that was the other. They would like to maybe look down the road to doing llamas, and it's a draw. It's absolutely something that I think we should be open to. I'm super excited. I would take my kids.
Can I make a suggestion though? When we draft our language, can we make it so that we don't have to we can be kind of use some common sense? You know what I mean? Because if you say, well, if you're going to have a goat, then you have to have 3 acres. Well, okay. You see what I'm saying? If we could just kind of say, well, your land is 8 feet wide and you're going to affect every neighbor, then maybe you don't get to have the goats, right? But other than that, we could be more flexible, open to entertaining ideas and perspective, because Neff Farms is phenomenal now. They have 3 wedding venues, they have hay rides and fair. I mean, it's the apple farms in Wilcox. We used to go down there, and so there is a lot of tourism, and it really be good for our community.
And that is something that, not in this conversation that we had with them, but to do like a Christmas tree event and to do a pumpkin patch and when they do their harvesting. So I love the idea and the fact that we're going to have this as a draw into our community. I think it's just a huge asset for us.
Mr. Vice Mayor, members of the council, I think the goal in writing the code is to avoid any kind of pitfalls. Make sure the animals are taken care of properly, they have enough space, they're caged properly, and that the neighbors, you don't have to have a lot of land to do a couple of tiny goats. But you want to make sure they're distance away from residents, and it may not be your land, but somebody else's land. So we're talking about a minimum threshold of land. We don't know what that is, and maybe a per acreage acreage, you know, we can't have you stuffing 40 of them in, you know, in a third of an acre. So just things that are the boundaries of what could go wrong. But yeah, we want to be flexible, and I think we're showing our flexibility as a city government to the needs of the community by, I mean, we moving pretty quick on this, and we don't see, if council doesn't see a problem, I think staff doesn't see a problem with it. But we did want to get your buy-in and make sure that you were okay before we invested time and energy into pulling this code together and bringing forward.
Shelley, any question?
So, well, not real. I just have some comments. First of all, there's miniature breeds of almost every farm animal, of almost every common farm animal. So there can be goats that are as big as us, you know, that those are not, we want the pygmy goats. We want the dwarf, the mini donkeys, the dwarf, and there's criteria for that. They have to be less than 30 inches tall to be a miniature donkey. And I will tell you, I had this for years and years back east. I was a grower. I had greenhouses, but we had a petting zoo, and people would come. They would come on a Saturday or a Sunday and spend the afternoon at the picnic tables with their lunch and their kids, and they'd ride the donkey. And it was amazing how many young people don't know that eggs come from chickens. They don't. They just don't know that because they go to the store and buy them, right? So this was a big part of our business and anything we had, whether it was Herb Day or this festival or that festival or whatever, the animals were always part of it. And it was a huge part of it, and it was very well accepted. We had people that voluntarily would bring ice cream cones to Violet the donkey because she liked ice cream cones. I mean, really, they drove with an ice cream cone to give to the donkey. You know, this is the opportunity here is huge, and I can tell you that I experienced it firsthand for 25 years. I am totally behind this.
I have to agree. I mean, why not? To bring more tourists to the city. That's what we're all out
Right.
to do. So I think we should at least look into this.
Oh yeah, no.
And I like the
With
commercial
criteria,
property.
Special criteria. that
Yeah.
we need to, follow certain rules.
Yeah, no, we do it right, but I just don't know how to get those little goats, those little pants, but it's going to be. But so I see that I see that this is a presentation item. There's no motion or second, but it appears that the direction from council is to move forward with doing an agritourism code, develop it, move it through P&Z, and then bring it back to council. Okay, so we'll do that.
Do we have any other questions? Comments?
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
Next on the agenda is the public hearing. Shelley, do you want to read the resolution now, or do you want to wait?
What do you want to open do you want to gavel in the public hearing?
Public hearing.
Yes, Vice Mayor, if you'd like to gavel in the public.
Okay. At this time, we open the public hearing. And this is to receive public comment on the proposed final budget for fiscal year 2019 and 2020 in consideration of resolution 1794. Do you want to go ahead and read?
Yes, Vice Mayor. Resolution number 1794, a resolution of the Mayor and Council of the City of Globe, County of Gila, State of Arizona, for the adoption of the final budget for fiscal year 2019-2020.
Okay, thank you, Shelley.
So go ahead.
At this time, we can accept any questions or comments from the audience, staff, or council.
I have a comment.
Oh, go ahead.
I just want to thank Jeannie, our finance director back there in the back, and Paul, because I had a million questions, and I'm pretty sure they were pulling their hair out some days for the things I wanted to know, but they got all the answers to all the questions, and I'm happy with the budget. I think it's well done. I think it's been a long process, and it's been well done.
Fernando?
just because I've done this a few times, our budget is 27 million, but we're nowhere near going to spend 27 million. It's just that a city cannot legally spend the money unless it's in your budget. So we budget for things that could possibly happen. So if they do happen, we're able to take care of that. So our real budget is nowhere near 27 million. So just if you're wondering, wow, where did they get that kind of money? That's
Well, and we don't really have $27 million. That's the imperative part.
so just FYI, that's why it's such a high number.
And Mr. Mayor, members of council, or Vice Mayor, members of council, with the public hearing as part of the legal process, we'll step out of the public hearing, and later in the meeting we'll do the final presentation, which is, I think, moved up to 5 slides. Still, we're pretty tight on the slides. But as requested, I think council requested some type of presentation as to where does the money go and what's real and what's not and what we have to budget. So we'll be able to address that as best we can. At least do a bit, and as to explaining that to the public. So we will have a chance for council to ask questions and the citizens to hear the presentation on the parts of the budget.
Any other questions or comments? Nothing? I too would like to thank Jeannie and the entire staff. I know this goes on for months every single year, so it's finally good to put this thing to bed. So thank you. I'm sure you're relieved, Jeannie.
It'll start.
You're going to be doing a little dance back there pretty soon.
It's vacation.
Yeah, she's got about a 10-day vacation schedule starting in August, so. And well deserved, because she's put things aside to wait for that and get the budget done.
So at this time, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. And then reopen the special meeting. And go on into the consent calendar. The consent calendar matters listed under the consent calendar are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion and one vote. Public hearing items are designated with an asterisk. Prior to the consideration of a consent agenda, the mayor will ask whether any member of the public wishes to remove a public hearing item for separate consideration. Members of the council and/or staff may remove any item for separate consideration. Item A, consideration of waiver of section 2-4-10 prior discussion rule to allow action on the balance of a consent agenda. Number 1, accounts payable, $1,309,511.98. Number 2, consideration of approval of council minutes. 2A, regular council meeting minutes of April 23rd, 2019. B, strategic action planning workshop minutes, April 24th and April 25th, 2019. C, Historic Preservation Advisory Committee minutes, June 18th, 2019. Item B, consideration of agreements and purchases less than $25,000. C, consideration of early July building permit report. D, consideration of the fleet report. E, consideration to approve the fiscal year 18-19 first, second, and third quarter distribution of bed tax funds in the amount of $20,703.77 to the Globe Downtown Association from account number 10-51-51915, General Fund Community Organization, Globe Downtown Association. Item F, consideration of recommended approval by the Historic Preservation Advisory Committee to approve the paint palette for 300 North Broad Street. And item G, consideration of recommended approval by the Historic Preservation Advisory Committee to approve the paint palette and changes to building front of the Power Elite Dance Academy located at 476 North Broad Street.
Mr. Vice Mayor, if I could, I'd like to pull item 1 just for a correction.
Item 1.
Yes, accounts payable. If I misunderstood, if I didn't hear you, sorry, if I misunderstood, I believe you recited 1,309,511.98. I believe the total amount is $1,668,638.12.
Thank you. Yeah, I didn't have that information.
Okay,
So thank you, Freddie.
you bet.
Mr. Vice Mayor, I'd like to pull both items F and G and table further discussion until applicant arrives.
Okay.
And Mr. Vice Mayor, I would like to pull E, and just, I want to make a couple comments on that. Okay.
Change the accounts payable. Okay, Paul?
Okay, so so we need to vote on the remainder of the,
Yes, I move that we go ahead and approve the items that were not pulled for further consideration.
Second.
Okay, all in favor signify aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Any abstaining? Motion passes as read.
okay. And Mr. Mayor, so we've corrected the record on the accounts payable. On item E, we are paying the first, second, and third quarter distribution of the Globe Downtown Association. We were slow in getting everything together and getting the letter of understanding put together and getting the process nailed down and everything like that. So this is not total compliance with our intended, but I think for the first year running forward, I think recommendation is that we pass this and distribute this money. I think we've made a lot of progress with putting in place the fiduciary protections that council has asked for. And so I just wanted to make sure that everybody understood that that we're happy to do this, and we do realize that it's not fully in compliance, but this is kind of like getting in the groove here. So I'm okay with that. So the staff recommends approval.
Thanks for explaining that.
Okay.
So we need a motion to pass with E then?
Yeah, so you would need a motion second and waive the rule.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor signify aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Any abstaining? Motion passes.
And then Michelle, when the applicant gets here, if you can give us a high sign. Okay, thank you.
So we'll go on to new business. Which there are now.
You want to do the,
And then action items. Okay, action item A is the presentation of the final budget for fiscal year 2019 and 2020 and consideration of resolution number 1794,
we're going to have,
adopting the fiscal year 2019 and 2020 final budget. Jeannie? It's the last time, huh?
Yes.
Mr. Vice Mayor, before we start with the presentation, we're going to have Shelley read the
resolution.
Yeah, we were going to try to do that while she's
Yeah.
changing PowerPoints.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. This is for the record, Resolution Number 1794, a resolution of the Mayor and Council of the City of Globe, County of Gila, State of Arizona, for the adoption of the final budget for fiscal year 2019 through 2020. Is council pleased with that reading?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good evening, Vice Mayor, council members. So here we are, ready to approve the final budget. Woo! So we have a presentation and discussion of fiscal year 2019-20 final budget adoption. The first slide is just another review of our budget calendar, the meetings that we held during the course of the budget season. The next slide is identifying that there's really no change to the public on the property tax rate. Our current property tax rate is 1.2832 per $100 of assessed values. Because the assessed values have gone up, in order to maintain a tax rate that doesn't increase homeowners' property taxes, we actually have to lower our current rate by 0.07%. So that brings our current rate to 1.2825. We've received an overall increase to assessed values from $40,312,897 in 2019 to $40,333,441 in 2020. The property tax collection amounts will actually increase from $517,295 in fiscal year 19 to $520,015 in fiscal year 20, which is a $2,720 increase. And that increase is from new construction. So, then we go to our final budget slide. At the June 25th council meeting, we adopted the tentative final budget. At that time, council had requests for 3 changes: to add $30,000 to the Public Works Department salary line for potential raises, to add $3,500 for reimbursement to council for city-related expenses, and to add $20,000 to the admin department salary line for employee bonuses. That made the final budget amount $27,230,866, which is the amount that council approved. The budget represents council priorities based on approval of funding to comply with council direction. And I think Paul wanted to speak to this also. Sorry, I forgot.
If you want to grab my seat, that's fine. It won't be that long though. Mr. Vice Mayor, members of the council, you're right. It is very exciting to complete the budget. It's a collaborative work between everybody from line staff, general, middle management, directors, what we're trying to accomplish here, and council's priorities. We're real proud of once again another year of doing this, and the budget shows the success that this council has been making. You're right, we're at a $27 million budget, and we'll get to the dicing this up, but we have growth. We don't have a lot of growth. We need to be careful to use that growth well. The biggest not surprise, but positive thing is the reduction in our PSPRS for public safety. We are getting the software so we can better track that, so it won't be so a surprise, because it's important that we keep an eye on that, because they say don't worry about things you can't control, but the biggest thing that we worry about staff-wise that we can't control is public safety retirement, because of swings and that just can clobber us. The little changes can hurt. But we're getting there. So I just you'll see two different numbers for general fund. This is a fun thing that Jeannie and I go back and forth. Technically, the general fund budget is $11,772,006. That includes the $1.6 million in fund the contingency, and that is built into that budget. So, but operationally, with ongoing M&O, we're about 10 million flat, and it's just a little bit up from the last year. We are up in staffing. We're at 104 FTEs, and people are our biggest asset, and we need to take care of them. But we're also looking to make sure we don't slip into a structural deficit situation, that we let things that are kind of have a life of their own take over. We have to make sure we manage those so we can still make choices and not come into a budget cycle that we're open to downturns that are gonna slam us and make us have to make significant cuts or hurt staff. So the third year in a row, I think it's going good. I'm happy with the modest increases, and this allows us some headroom to do more things. I won't go any more. There is a city manager's budget message in the book that was delivered, and that has a little bit more detail. But again, we're just real excited that I think we put together a strong budget. This is a planning document, not an accounting document, and it's going to tie into a strategic plan that'll come up. Actually, I'm going to go to the next slide, because I think, let's see, does that have the
pie charts?
No, I'm going to let you do that then. but it does, we are dealing with council priorities and the roadmap. So yeah, that's in there already. And so I'm gonna turn it back to you. Make sure I covered all the things I wanted to cover. Thank you.
Okay, so we did some pie charts. That was a learning experience.
Jeannie's like, how do you do a pie chart? And I'm like, you ask Google
Yeah, he did.
or YouTube. And so we found a video.
Yeah, he taught me how to Google YouTube videos. So the following 3 slides are various pie charts, since it was so much fun, that break out budgeted funds in various ways. The first chart depicts all of the departments, broken out by all funds. And all those numbers come up to the $27,230,000. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail in it, but you see the contingency, you see the WIFA funds, and the next slide is easier to understand. The next pie chart. This is broken out by major funds, and we had received the request from council. How do you explain the budget to the public, and that we don't really have $27 million. So you'll see in here, we have an amount of grants, $1,866,000. Like Councilman Shipley said, we don't have it, but you have to budget for it in case you do get it. You can't spend it if you don't. So we put that in there. We have our contingency items. We were showing that the O&M for the general fund, which the last slide shows all of the different departments under the general fund. The O&M for that's $10,120,000. Water and wastewater, that $5,970,000 includes our water, sewer, and WIFA budget. The transportation amount of $743,000 includes HERF and excise. The majority of the excise tax went into the CIP, so there's only $9,000 of it that's in this amount here. The contingency of $2,456,000 is the contingency amounts from admin, water, and sewer. And the special funds amount consists of library, active adult center, Miami tax, and volunteer fireman fund.
Mr. Mayor, members, or Vice Mayor, members of the council, I think this is dicing up a little bit differently. I think the general fund represents our ongoing collection of sales tax, state shared tax, property taxes, and things like that. The water, wastewater represents the funds and how we spend our enterprise funds, which is water and wastewater fees. And then the CIP represents the investment of one-time purchases, which includes both money that comes from our fund balance and money like the Connie's Bridge that we collect from different sources, but are for this one-time money. We'll use them on one-time expenditures, and then and the contingency is a portion of the fund balance that we have that we allocate in case of emergencies or purchases that we did not contemplate prior to this point. And so, but hopefully that gets to, how this money is broken out in the different parts. And we're always open to anybody who has those questions to sit down with them. And then Jeannie, I think you broke down the general fund.
I did.
Yeah.
And that's the next slide. And so we have quite a few departments under general fund. We have fleet, economic development, museum, public works, magistrate, police, fire, admin, mayor and council, and community organizations. And all of the dollar amounts that you see on that chart come back to the $10,120,855 budget that we have for the general fund.
And Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the council, you'll see that public safety is the, the combined is our largest general fund consumer. Public Works is smaller, but there's certain things coming out of general, they have their own enterprise fund. But in that money that is so precious, these ongoing revenue, this is what we pull from, you'll find that you'll always hear in the news that cities are spending more and more of their budget on public safety. What you're really seeing is that cities are spending less and less of their remaining budget on anything else. And during the downturn, when you have to make cuts, you got to make it cuts from everything but public safety. And so that's why those numbers are, and they used to be average about 60%. The public safety percentage is going down as we have more funds to spend on other things. But don't be fooled on that. They're just, in all cities, public safety is usually the last thing that you want to cut. So, and we've seen that here. In trying to protect that, that public safety, fire, police is crucial. You don't want to, it's not a good place to cut. So just in looking at that pie chart, that comes attention to the importance of or the significance of public safety hit on the budget.
And then we have a budget follow-up. So staff will bring the council strategic plan update for final approval at the July 23rd council meeting. Staff will bring forward a merit-based staff incentive program for council approval. Staff will bring forward an updated procurement code, which should help expedite budget expenditures. And staff will bring forward what's not up there.
I think we're going to put together a policy for the $500 for reimbursement for community activities. We need to get a quick policy in there. And so the money will be allocated in the budget, and then we'll bring a policy soon after. So we have guidelines as how that's spent. So, and I think did
you ever think of the other thing?
No, I didn't. There's one more thing that I've been racking my brain and I never found.
Well, we'll bring it back to you.
Yeah, but the
30,000 in Public Works for increase in salary.
and that is built into this balanced budget. I think it was on the slides before, the 20,000 for the bonus program, 30,000 additional capacity.
30 additional, yeah.
Yeah, and that, can you go back to that slide?
No, I believe you. I just want you to say it out loud in public.
Okay. Yes. A true politician.
I believe in that.
Yes. So.
And I'll go to the mat over that one, pal.
So we got and then so that's the 30,000. We added the 20,000, and then the 3,500. Now the one thing Councilor Giles and myself, we had talked. In doing this, I think Jeannie had double added the 3,500. Yeah, and so we do have a surplus budgeted for 3,500. It's unallocated now. I believe that there's going to be a discussion at the next meeting about barricades and maybe make some purchases of that. And so I think in my head, I'm seeing that's a good little surplus that we can use to start the ball rolling on getting some barricades.
On the Jersey barricades?
On the Jersey Bears, yeah.
I would buy 10.
What's that?
I would buy 10. That's a good plan.
Yeah, no, I think we're gonna have a full conversation. I think staff's can actually request 20, but I don't want to get too far afield. But
request 30.
Yes.
Yeah, he'll negotiate with you.
Yeah,
you gotta request 30.
Start high.
That's how it works. That's how it works. We know it.
So just let you know that there is that 3,500 surplus, and like I say, so that'll be used up. We believe in the next meeting, and the next meeting's in 7 days, on the 23rd.
Mm-hmm. Any questions?
Mr. Vice Mayor, knowing that we have that surplus, I know that we talked about facility upgrades in the council chambers with some chairs, so I would ask this council to consider revisiting the chair purchases with that surplus.
It would be, the council would have the option to stipulate that 3,500 go to be used for chairs as a motion as part of the budget approval, and that doesn't in any way negatively affect the discussion about Jersey barriers and the ability. I believe if we're going to do 20 Jersey barriers, we're going to have to come out of fund balance anyway, and so it's either 6 anyways, it could work either way. They're two separate issues. One is not going to stop the other one.
I have a comment. So I thought we had at the last budget meeting taken that 4,500. It was 4,500 that had been
For the chairs.
allocated for chairs. That I thought we were giving them to
Christmas lights.
Christmas decorations and or the new trash receptacles in downtown. Am I
did.
mistaken?
It's already in here.
We did.
Yeah, it's in there. There's just a $3,500 surplus is what he's saying. And, I mean, $4,500 is a lot anyways for chairs. So,
Yeah, so if the, I mean, this is a council
I
decision.
think 3,500 is a lot for chair. No disrespect. I think 3,500 is a heck of a lot for chairs that we sit our butts in twice a month. And I think it is my personal opinion that we should be buying as many Jersey barriers as we can get for that money. They're public safety. The Jersey barriers are for public safety.
And this, I don't want you to see, this is not pitted. This is not one or the other. There's not a zero-sum game. We can buy chairs and we can buy Jersey barriers. And it's just a matter of,
I'll vote no for chairs. Just heads up there.
so the way that would work is if somebody wanted to make a motion on the budget and include allocating the 3,500 to go towards chairs, and then see if it receives a second would be the process.
Oh, we have a question in the back.
Well, that's, excuse me, that's, we do not, well, we can't really do that. If you, I mean, if you'd like to fill out I think you can fill out a form and we can come up and have you do it that way. Okay.
Please do so.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear what Mr. Pastor has to
We just
say.
don't want to get from that. Okay, good, yeah. And if you bring the paper, we'll fill it out for you.
Get the paper.
Yeah, no, I just,
It's all good.
yeah, there's,
We know your name and address.
Are we talking about council chairs or are we talking about?
Council chairs.
These.
chairs have already been allocated.
Oh, these already.
Yeah, these have already been allocated.
That clears the question for me.
Yeah.
okay,
Thank you.
okay.
So do we need a motion?
If you discussion, or you can break into a motion.
You would need a motion for Jersey barriers anyways?
No, we're going to have a whole nother conversation in a week on Jersey barriers. We're going to have a presentation.
But
So why
really-
do you need a motion for this 3,500 surplus?
We don't-
You
we-
were already going to spend it on Jersey barriers. You didn't need a motion then, but now you'll need a motion.
No,
for chairs?
what I initially,
spend the additional 3,500 or the extra 3,500, but it is my opinion that we should get as many Jersey barriers as we can afford, and if we can take that, do you guys all understand what they are? I mean, they're going to explain what they really are. The best thing for public safety when
don't
there's
think they
downtown
understand.
events.
so let me do it this way. Right now, if we had,
Jersey barriers open for the last 2 weeks.
if you motion to pass the budget as is right now, we will pass it with a $3,500 surplus, and that's money that's in the budget that's unallocated. And I had made the comment because we'd had the question that since it's going on the agenda in a week, we would have that money to fall back on. And then the staff's request was we do 3,500 from the surplus, another 3,500 from fund balance, putting together 7,000 to buy 20 barriers, which is the request from.
So we can pass the motion or make a motion to pass the budget.
So you can pass the budget straight up.
With
We're
the
going to talk
surplus.
about this next
You
week.
could pass the motion with Jersey barriers in there. You could pass it with chairs in there, whichever you want to go. But just let you know that buying the chairs now would not impact the Jersey barriers. Not putting the Jersey barriers would not say we can't do it in the future. We can do both in the future. It's just a matter of the motion that we do.
We can
budget.
discuss that.
Yeah.
in a
Yeah,
later
so the
date.
Jersey barriers are already going to be on the
It's in the
agenda.
budget.
Okay.
They're not in the budget, but they're going to be on the agenda, and we have the capacity to do that. And so I think we have another speaker.
So my name is Anna Harmon James. I live at 232 South Melbourne Road. I don't know if you have to do that. We have to do that. Or, anyway, my
But if you can come to the mic,
question is kinda,
so we can record
can't
you.
hear me?
No, so they can record you. It's,
So what my question is that you stated these chairs are already allocated for a budget and everything like that. How old are
I thought
these?
they were. Council improvements. I
What we're
thought.
doing, we're pulling them up, moving around, doing the carpeting.
And putting them back.
But I don't believe.
These are
was
really
under-
nice chairs,
under
and
the
keep in
impression
mind
they
what
were
board
already-
I'm from, and I'm just like, you've got to be kidding me,
No.
because you wanted me to show you some good chairs?
Yeah.
I'll show you some right
Yeah,
in the
no.
high school.
No, we're not replacing these. and-
So, okay, so these are not going to
no.
be,
No, they're talking about replacing
These.
chairs, Anna.
right, but then
But then
he made the
s- yeah, 'cause
comment.
he asked, his
I missed
In
question
regards
was
to
that if
these.
these were allocated, and I was under the assumption that these were allocated
They're
under the council
So I
chamber.
just
allocated to do
More
the
information.
platform and move the chairs so we have more room and do the carpeting. So they all have
that much money to do that.
to lift this and do the carpeting and move these around. Yeah, I don't remember the exact numbers, but I know we
18,000.
Yeah, $18,000 for just to move you guys up.
to build this platform.
That's a lot of money.
I don't, John, who priced that?
That was the carpeting, redoing the dice area, and then raising the level where you're.
But I think about half of that's carpeting. So I don't know if you can motion to modify to move that out or cancel that. Well, that looks like our dance studio.
Well, that's something we've already.
It's already discussed. We've already discussed it, so it's already
already-
going
And
forward.
you know,
I think it would cost a lot to replace these chairs.
Ready?
Well, not just replace them, but to
I just would like to make a comment. The carpeting has already been, we've already discussed that and talked about it. I don't know why we're having to rehash something that we've already agreed to do. My comment was simply, if there's a $3,500 surplus, I would ask this council to reconsider the cost of facilitating the chairs, the chamber chairs, and having our manager and clerk sit at a level where they're not below us and we could actually see each other a little better. That was the plan initially when it was declined.
No,
If I can finish, please. Thank you. So my point is, if there's a surplus, I would like to reconsider that option of revisiting and purchasing the chairs. Now, that said, these are not just our chairs. These chairs belong to the dais. We have more than just council sitting on these chairs conducting meetings. This is a facilities upgrade, just like we're upgrading our carpet and just like we're upgrading potentially the seating arrangement for city manager and clerk. So I didn't anticipate this to snowball and roll into a whole Q&A of what's getting replaced and how much does it cost. We've already talked about that. So I'm just simply talking about the chairs and the $3,600 surplus.
Thank you, Mary.
I believe the raising of the dais is already a done deal though as well. Is
that's a
that
done
not
deal.
correct? Yeah, because really I can't even see Shelley at all. I can't see you when you're speaking or anything. That needs to be done.
But that's already in.
That's been approved.
and that'll be done in-house with our staff.
So Freddie's simply asking about, or
church.
commenting about.
The extra
chairs.
$3,500.
I'd like to move to approve the budget as presented, and then this stuff can be negotiated as we need to.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor signify aye.
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 Mr. Vice Mayor, we will need a roll call vote on that, so.
Roll call?
Yes, so, and so Shelley is going to call the roll.
Councilman Rios?
I vote yes, but I would also like to add, for the record, that once we get past this budget and we move forward with how we're going to look at our anticipated or the thought of a fire department building and how we're going to finance in a few years the ladder truck. But I would also add that I would like to consider, this council to consider to revisit the Type 3 engine that Chief had requested also. So my vote is yes.
My vote is, I'm in agreement with the motion as read.
I agree, yes. So,
Councilwoman Giles?
Yes.
Councilman Shipley?
Aye.
okay,
Yes, folks.
all right. So we have a motion, then we pass the motion with the vote. Okay, all in favor signify aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Any abstaining? Motion passes.
Thank you, Jeannie.
Thank you.
You're released, Jeannie, yay.
Have a good vacation.
Yeah. But it doesn't start yet.
Keep on walking out.
That's our train.
That's her train.
Okay, next on the agenda is
Mr. Vice Mayor, members of council, we do have our applicant for the painting thing. I'm sorry, I have a better name, but if we want to go back to the two items we pulled up for consent, so they are here. So if you want to reread the two that we pulled off consent, and then we'll go ahead and address those on a vote.
okay, item F is consideration of recommended approval by the Historic Preservation Advisory Committee to approve the paint palette for 300 North Broad Street. And then item G is consideration of recommended approval by the Historic Preservation Advisory Committee to approve the paint palette and changes to the building front of the Power Elite Dance Academy located at 476 North Broad.
Thank you, Vice Mayor and Council. The Historic Preservation is giving a recommendation on this 300 North Broad Street building. I went by and they were getting ready to paint it. They were prepping it. And I realized that it's potentially going to be in the same color for 10 more years or however long the paint will last. And I called Historic Preservation in a panic and said, could you please come and maybe we could suggest a different paint color to them. And they were agreeable to it, the owner and the caretaker of this building. So they recommended two colors that should be in your packet. It's smoke and ash and botanical gardens. So it's going to be it's a grayish color with a dark green trim. I think it's going to look very nice. And I appreciate Historic Preservation coming to my aid quickly. I kind of, panicked and called her. On the next item,
We do them one at a time. So if the council has any questions, if not, we can.
and they're open to he basically said if you choose a color, I'll paint it that color. So if you have a preference over what Historic Preservation presented to us, you're more than welcome to say, hey, can we try this color? And we can try that.
I have a comment.
Shall we?
I think that we should really thank that business owner, that building owner, because we don't want all our downtown tan or brown. That's awesome that they took the recommendations from the Historic Preservation Committee and agreed to go with a whole different paint palette.
I think so too. And plus, if it's a different color, it'll be more striking,
Sure it will.
like, ooh, it's fresh paint.
Yeah.
Instead of I don't think you'd really notice if they did it the same color.
Same color repaint, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a fantastic idea.
Yeah, so thank you to you as well for noticing that. So,
Want to make a motion?
yeah, if there's no other discussion, I move that we approve that.
Thank you so much.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on item E.
That's it.
Or that's F, I'm sorry. So we gotta make a motion for both, or you wanna do them together?
No,
separate.
Separate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Motion and a second. All in favor signify aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Any abstaining? Motion passes.
I'm going to let, this is Tina McCary from the Power Elite Dance Academy. She's the owner. And she's been working really hard to get her colors chosen. What I would like to commend her for is the building on the left. this building right here. So this is her building, what it looks like right now. And this is the building that's to the side of it. Tina does not even own this building. I asked this owner to paint it. Somehow in the conversation, Tina said, I would like that building for my business if she's willing, and that the lady that owned this building was, near tears. So, I mean, she doesn't have the time, money, or inclination to do this building. Tina and her husband and their family emptied out this building of this lady's 30 years of belongings. They put stuff aside that had sentimental value, trashed everything that was trashed, and she is going to redo this building that I don't know the status, but I think it's not even her building right now. And so I really want to thank her for that, because otherwise she would have her whole beautiful thing going on, and then this building would look the same that it looks like. So I really, I love that I put them together, but she acted on it and is, taking that project on. So she gave her her ideas to Historic Preservation. They have a couple little things they want to tweak, but other than that, they really liked it. And so if you want to talk about that part, what you did to come to this point.
Okay. I again didn't like the tans and the colors, and so I drove up to Pacer and Prescott and that area and just started looking at all the buildings up there and those historic places, and I noticed that everything was colorful, different colors. So I went back to the palette, and I have a friend who's an artist who does colors, and so I took the picture. She drew this all up and said, let's do these colors, and so she, as an artist, helped me come up with the colors, and changing the lighting, and because we want it to look cute. We're a children's dance studio, and we want the kids to want to come, so we want it to be vibrant and kind of fun, for them to get excited about. You said they didn't really like the green, you said, right?
Yeah, they wanted a different, more historic palette green, and I did tell her it's just a recommendation.
Yeah.
And that council can say, you can have whatever green you want. And the other thing they wanted is maybe not the corrugated tin, but maybe some other kind of metal canopy. And again, that's a recommendation that council can.
So I went down the street to the Viva Cafe and took a picture of theirs and was like, okay, if they must have got that okay if I did something like that. And I don't care if I have to change the tin. I liked what they had, but it was the corrugated. But we just have two little parts. It's just so boring. It's just so flat. So I'd like my husband to bring a couple of those out and put some really nice benches underneath, so when the kids come out and they're waiting for their parents, they can just sit there.
And what she's going for is she uses the whole building as one dance studio. I think it is in sections, but she has several. The building is real. How many buildings is it?
There's 7 buildings.
So there's 7 buildings. So she's trying to give each little building its own little personality. And there's a picture that she took, her inspiration picture, just shows she's just trying to go for this look where each little section of a building, I don't know if she's going all the way to 7.
Right, I think
but
there's 4.
4 or 5 are going to have its own little personality. It's what she's trying to do. So on the inside, it's one building, but on the outside, it's going to appear kind of like downtown Disney-ish or whatever, like it has its own personality.
Vice Mayor, are you wanting to have your own ideas approved, or are you okay with the suggestions made by the Historic Preservation?
Suggestions. I just didn't want brown. And that's why we've been waiting, because I just, we just redid our roof, but we're doing the inside right now. So this wait has been fine with us, because we're still doing the inside remodeling. And as soon as you give us the okay, then we'll start on the outside.
So what do you want us to approve?
Mr. Vice Mayor, Councilman Shipley, what I would recommend is that the motion would be motion to approve the recommendations by the historical district Preservation Committee, with the stipulation that council also approve the green color in question as presented on the board. I don't know what the color number is, but it's on that board there. And so it would be accepting everything except, they recommended approval for everything but the green. The green was still in limbo, but council has the ability to stipulate that also approving the green as presented.
But weren't they against the corrugated tin then as well?
Oh, the corrugated tin, where were they? Were they against corrugated tin?
Who's against the corrugated?
The historical
The Historic
preservation.
Preservation Committee.
Yeah, the
but
issue with
Vita, that's
the-
a good point
Yeah.
about Vita, because that is
They
what
have
they
it.
have. And
I
it's
think
it's
that's
well done.
awesome.
It's well done.
And the issue with corrugated tin is, that one that's on that coffee house is not, they don't think it fits the era of the building, and they wanted it a different material, but it was like an after the fact thing. So they felt like it was my job, maybe, that I should have told them they can't have that tin. So somewhere a ball was dropped, and so now the question is, can someone else have that because they have it, or do we make everybody change it to something else? Sorry, that's the question.
And council has the, like I say, the historical preservation is to make recommendations, but by code, council has the final word that you can approve or unapprove that. So if it's council's desire to accept the tin, you have that right if you feel that it's.
You want to put the tin like on the window then?
Like this, like a canopy.
Yeah, like a canopy. Well, right here I can see here like a canopy there over the windows.
It's just on those two buildings.
Okay.
I really wanted to do like a copper sort of thing, and we started looking at
That'd be
pricing, and it's kind of expensive, but then again, I'll see what I can get, because sometimes we can find stuff. My husband's a contractor, so we can look around. But if I could do copper, I'd do like a copper.
Yeah.
Would be great.
So I have a comment. I think, thank you for fixing up your building. Thank you for going to all this time and expense, and it's your building. Go for it, girlfriend.
Yeah.
I move that we approve as presented.
As presented or with
As
with her recommendations?
she presented it to us.
But
Is
and
it
then,
okay though if I don't do, like if say down the road I do
Yeah.
the corrugated
Yeah,
tin,
I do
can
too.
change it to the copper, or I can make that change.
I think we leave that up to the property owner.
if it
Thank
please the
her,
council,
Matt,
if I can make the motion and then you can just approve the motion that, so the motion would be to approve the color palettes that are approved by the Historical Preservation District, with the addition of approving the green as presented on the board, and approving a corrugated steel material for the covering as discussed in the presentation.
Or copper.
yeah.
Metal. Let's
Metal,
just say
yeah, so metal would be,
That kind of
Yeah.
covers what you can find.
okay, so that would be the motion if someone wants to latch onto that.
Second.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor signify aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Any abstaining? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. So now we'll move on to item B in the action items. Consideration of possible memorandum of understanding, the MOU, with the Globe Unified School District for a special resource officer, an SRO, the amount not to exceed $60,000, as including in the adopted fiscal year 2019-2020 budget, and direction to the city manager to finalize agreement with the city attorney. Paul?
We get it. Let Dale start this.
Good evening, Mr. Vice Mayor and Council. One correction, there was a typo in the actual paragraph. It's school resource officer, not special resource officer. This is the position that I presented to council several months ago. Over the course of that time, we developed an MOU and presented it to Jerry at the school. And through the course of their budgetary process and meeting with the school board, we've come to an agreement that we want to move forward with developing that school resource officer, which would also include, as presented originally, that position would be in charge of developing and starting our cadet/explorer program for the police department. Currently, right now, we have selected Officer Jesus Verdugo as the school resource officer. He's already attended 2 trainings this summer in preparation for that position. He will be attending training starting tomorrow with the school, both this week, and then we're prepared for him to start school, first day of school, and start coordinating with the 2 principals that he'll be servicing over the next school year. The current MOU that we had started with is in the hands of the attorneys that represent the school district. Once we get that back, our attorney will have to give final approval for it before we do this final presentation to the city council for final approval. But we're well on our way, and both myself and Jerry are confident that both parties have agreed to the financial implications moving forward. It's just a matter of getting through some of the legal documents, and both of us have seen the baseline. We are both expecting minor changes to it, but we will adapt and overcome whatever those are moving forward. So if there's any questions concerning any of that, I can address that.
So we're not waiting for the attorneys.
And let me clarify what we had worked out, and Dale, sorry I didn't update this on you for you, but we did work it out in talking to our attorney. I'm like familiar with the Chandler SRO document. He's like, yeah, I wrote it. Bill Sims is one that put this together for Chandler. We're very comfortable because it's a very tight document. We don't expect many changes. So in essence, we are asking for final approval to allocate the money. The vote now will allocate the funds and approve the position with allowing the power, and direct the city manager to finalize agreement with the city attorney. So you'll be approving the money, the position, and then I will oversee the input from the attorney to make sure that we're back and forth with the school attorney, and then I can sign that, and it will not have to come back to council. What that does is allow us to get everything going with that. Once we get the document in place, we won't have to wait for a meeting, because we got a meeting in 7 days and not one for another 3 weeks, and school starts very soon. And so that will expedite it. The way the motion is written, if you motion and second that, that'll be the last time it comes to city council, and then we can take care of it administratively with the power you give us.
So council is aware that the school has had this for some time, but they've been very dependent on the state budget, because there were some indications that there were some financial implications that they had to wait till the final approval of the governor's budget. So that was part of the prolonging of this event coming to fruition. So, but all along, everybody's been on board with trying to push forward with it. It just took some time.
And Mr. Vice Mayor, members of council, the only other outstanding issue is that this is a one-year agreement. We, in talking in meetings that we've had, we both the Globe Unified and City Globe believe that Globe Unified has a very quality chance of getting full grant funding for this SRO position in the next year. And then they'll be fully paid, and we'll have that savings, Globe Unified to have that savings. If that doesn't happen, we can fall back on this same agreement and re-up this again, and where we pay half, they pay half. But there is a scenario that for whatever budgetary constraints the school may fall under, even though they may love that there is not a guarantee that in a year this will be funded again by Globe Unified. It's a concern, but it's not a major worry. I think that I think having the SRO, there's a public value to that. If it is not approved, then we will have an extra officer that we will. Dale will have no problem finding something for that extra officer to do. If it was not approved, if someone were to exit the city, we would go back down to our regular staffing. But in essence, we're taking on one additional staff based on a one-year commitment of funds. But we are not in the position that if we don't get the SRO funding in a year, we're not going to release this officer, because we're taking one of our internals and putting it there. We're going to backfill that position. We will not say, oh, we didn't get the funding, we're going to cut a job. We're not going to do that. And so that can happen through attrition. And I have every confidence in that the grant cycle will go well, and that everybody's budget will be such that this will get funded one way or the other, because I think it's a great value to the city and to the school district to have this crossover, this partnership. And so, but I did want to let you know that is a concern, but I think it's manageable, and we'll highly recommend that we approve and go forward with this.
Mr. Vice Mayor, so does this the 60,000 is enough to cover all costs, right? Employee taxes, benefits, retirement, and salary?
It's a 50-50 split between us and the school district, so the 60,000 is our half of the position. It's actually, I think, $56,587. But they'll pay the other side, and then we'll move from there. But it's not to exceed that from us this cycle.
So
In the car.
the car right now, we actually put in the budget. We're applying for a couple of different grant-funded vehicles. I've secured a couple of vehicles. One vehicle from Oro Valley as a hand-me-down. 4 vehicles from the city of Chandler, and we're anticipating anywhere from 3 to 4 vehicles from Sholo. Our hope is to designate one of those cars as the SRO car moving forward. But we can cover this right now as we move forward.
And Mr. Vice Mayor, members of council, Councilman Shipley, the full cost of the position with the officer that we can move over is $114,000. That's fully loaded with salary, benefits, PSPRS due to him, and PSPRS load on there. The officer salary at that level is under $50,000, but the cost of a cop is $114,000, given all the things you have to pay with that. And so that 114 is split 2 ways, and that's how we come up with. They're doing, I think they did, the school district did 57. We're doing 60 just to cover our bases, and so it comes out about 117. I think we're scheduling at 114. But I don't want everybody to think that an officer, SRO officer, is getting paid $114,000 a year. That's not what they're taking home.
I see we have Superintendent Jennings in the audience, so I just would like to ask have you met Officer Verdugo? Because I think he's going to do an awesome job. Yeah. Good. We're glad the school agrees.
And Mr. Vice Mayor, members of council, Dale, this officer will basically do teaching and enforcement, and what's the work day? Just a 30-second brief on that.
So what we did is we based this because it's both my desire and the superintendent's desire and the principal's desire to move forward with applying for the grants. And it's important for us that we create the standard that we adhere to the grants moving forward. So this MOU was actually copied from Chandler, where they found themselves in a similar situation that we find ourselves in. They have a need for an SRO in a school. Both the school district and the police department agreed to split the cost, but they wanted to make sure that they followed the requirements by the grant funding as moving forward. That way we're not missing a beat. And so it's based off of the grant requirements by the state if we were to get the grant funding. So I want to say there's 1,250 law enforcement related education hours that the officer has to teach. The difference and the uniqueness of this particular position is if we get a grant funded position, it will be assigned to a singular school. Because of the need for both the high school and the junior high, we're kind of splitting the time for the officer, and it's going to be random to make sure that it's not predictable from one school to the other. He will have to work closely with both sets of principals to make sure that he meets those needs, but then he would only be required to do the total for the year of law enforcement related education hours, meaning that he's not going to do 1,290 hours in each school. He'll split it between the 2 schools. Having said that, historically, it's been my experience that part of those education hours is not just by Officer Verdugo. He'll be reaching out to some of his peers, both with Globe, state troopers, the county, to come in for specialty classes and stuff like that for the kids. But that's the idea behind it.
Why would the grant position have to be in one, not in both the high school and the middle school?
That's how it's funded through the state. So each school will apply for grant. In the brief conversations I've had with the principals and the superintendent, that's the goal when the grant cycle comes back around, that both principals will be applying, but you don't apply to meet both. At least it's been my experience that hasn't happened.
And Mr. Vice Mayor, members of council, one of the strongest focuses of the grant will be that we're successfully doing this now, and so we are referring to this as a pilot program, and they, you know, they like to take risk. They like to spend money on things that are less risk adverse, and so if you have a program up and running, functioning with a history, you can build that into the grant, and it just strengthens the application and makes you more likely to get that money. They like to invest in things that are already hammered out and working fine.
And the grants are normally developed and created by the actual principals at each of the schools, but we've already given our guarantee that we will be working hand in hand with the staff at the schools, bringing things to bear to assist them in creating the most successful possibilities we can moving forward to grant fund this.
Well, you sold me at Helping Kids, so I'd move to approve the memorandum of understanding for a school resource officer not to exceed $60,000.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor signify aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Any abstaining? Motion passes.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Thank you,
Well
Council.
done, Chief.
Appreciate
Well
it.
done.
Great job. Great job, schools. Thank you. Okay, item C, consideration and possible approval of contract number PS-2019-005 with EUSI LLC for professional operational consulting and support services to serve as the operator of the record of the City of Globe wastewater treatment plant in the amount of $66,000 plus approved expenses from account number 51-80-51225 wastewater consultants. Frank?
Good evening, Vice Mayor and Council. Here to answer any questions regarding this motion.
And
as presented.
And Mr. Vice Mayor, members of the council, and Frank, this is a continuation of the contract that we've had before with where EUSI offers high-level support for the wastewater treatment plant, and that's Chris Hendricks.
Chris Hendricks, and our permitting process and reporting, and also ADQ matters, and they'll also be helping us with our oxidation ditch project that we are ongoing right now. So they've been giving us some technical advice on our steps that we need to do in order to make sure that we're able to properly treat the over 500,000 gallons a day that we treat down there at the plant.
500,000 gallons a day, per day.
On average, a little over that.
And
It is.
And Mr. Vice Mayor, members of council, and Frank, this I know that Chris helped us with the copper fishy issue where we had to figure out the permitting because we didn't have fish, but we could have had fish. Okay.
Our ZIPTES permit,
Yeah.
our limits that we had, ADQ gave us for our copper limits on our effluent discharge. If we're going into the creek, the limits were a little bit low as far as what we thought due to our environment and what we had. So we had to do some additional testing and put together all our information and represent it to ADQ. ADQ accepted all the information that we gave them, and we are in the process of seeing if we can get that consent order lifted, and our permit has been renewed with a higher level for our copper limits when we discharge into the creek. That's when we discharge into the creek, which we also have our Freeport agreement right now where they're rehabbing their facility on their end so they can start taking our effluent again.
Yeah, and we've been working through some of the bugs with them accepting our B+ and how because they purchased that and then they re-inject it, and there's a 2-mile pipeline between there, and there's been some back and forth as to how to make that work, and so this is that high level technical support that we have to make sure that things go right and we it secures our investment. It's the brain trust there.
How long have we been working with them?
With EUSI? Mm-hmm. It's been at least, I've been down there for about 5 years or a little bit longer, and they've been on since I've been there.
And they've been really good for us?
They've been good. They've been great partners.
Jesse?
No.
The motion?
I'll make the motion to approve contract PS 20190045 with EUSI LLC for professional operational consulting and support services to serve as the operator of record for the City of Globe wastewater treatment plant in the amount of $66,000 plus approved expenses from account number 518051225 wastewater consultants. Also to retrodate this contract to May 1st, 2019 to cover services provided.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor signify aye.
Aye.
Any approved or any opposed? Nay. Any abstaining? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Frank.
Thank you.
Oh, we have another one?
Okay, item number D, consideration of possible approval of contract number PS 2-019-0046 with EUSI LLC for professional operational consulting and support services to serve as the operator of record for the City of Globe water system in the amount of $28,000 plus approved expense from account number 50-80-51234 water contractual services. Vince?
Hi. Good evening, Vice Mayor and Council. I'm here. We went out in February for advertisement for RSOQ because we knew our operator record, Ken Selleck, was going to retire. So we asked Council if we can go out. We got approval. In April, we closed the bid with 2 applicants. We chose EUSI as the best. And I'm here to ask you guys to award the contract.
And Mr. Vice Mayor, members of the council, with Kenny's retirement, we need to have someone as a operator of record, and so this is allows us to do a month-to-month contract as we need. We will be going forward with the position to fill a position, and the one primary most important part is if we can fill a position that would cover the operator record on the water side, and possibly if we can find somebody with both the skill sets to do the operator record on the and some of the high level stuff on the wastewater side, we could bring forward a person that would eliminate the need for both of these contracts. And so that is something that we're looking for. Finding those skill sets, is not always easy. There's a lot more involved to it, but these are safeguards put in place, especially this one, which has a month to month. But if we could find that perfect person to sit in here and allow us to transfer this money from contractual to staff, we would do that with the right person. And so, but for now, we do need to have both these contracts in place based on our staffing and skill sets and the needs that we have.
And also, it's an ADEQ requirement that we didn't have a gap, so we're asking to retro date it back to June 27th. That was the reasoning for that, the ADEQ requirement.
Freddie?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I would just encourage, and Vince, this is not geared towards you, but if you could talk to your staff, really encourage your staff to look at upgrading and getting their certifications, because the operator of record here, to have somebody here local that is part of our staff and part of your staff, I think is invaluable. I can say this because this is what I do for a living, and these certificates and being the operator of record, having somebody on record that works with the staff like a Ken Selleck and Mr. Rentria before him is really I think something that our city should really consider having. It's important, and EUSI, they're very qualified. Don't get me wrong on this, but I think that at least for the operator of record portion of what we're doing here, I encourage our staff, our own in-house staff, to work towards getting those certificates, because it's invaluable. It's a certificate they own. The city won't own it, or anywhere else. They own it, and it's really it could be career changing for those individuals. So I strongly support that push for our in-house staff to upgrade their certificates.
Actually, today we had a ADEQ training here in this room for help test taking for certifications. And last week, our Brian Palmer, who runs our cutter, just got his grade 3s in water treatment.
Great.
So he's on his, he's on his way.
And I'm aware of that training. 6 of my staff were here, so.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there was I think a full house.
Actually,
like 18 were here.
I think I'm having lunch with one of them, but.
Yeah.
No, we had 4 employees, but I think 18 people attended the class.
awesome.
But even at that,
Yeah.
I still
So
encourage it. It's valuable. So that said, I make a motion that we approve, award the contract number PS 2019-0046 to EUSI LLC for the professional operational consulting and support services to serve as operator of record for the City of Globe water system in the amount of $28,800, plus approved expenses from account 50-80-51234, water contractual services.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor signify aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Any abstaining? Motion passes. Thank you, Vince. Next on the agenda is item E. Consideration of possible approval of contract number PS-2019-0008 for an on-call civil engineering support service with Richard Powers Engineering and Consulting in the amount not to exceed $58,000 to be funded out of the accounts number 10-61-51234, Public Works Contractual Services, number 50-80-51234, Water Contractual Services, and 51-80-51234, Wastewater Contractual Services with a possible WIFA reimbursement and our grant reimbursement. John?
Good evening, Vice Mayor and Council. First of all, I just want to start off by thanking you all for the support that you give us on a day-to-day basis, and more so passing our budget tonight, for the extra effort throughout our whole process. In May 14th, staff came before council, requested to advertise for engineer on-call services, and anticipation is our on-call, or actually our engineer currently working with us is actually Larry Hansen, was getting ready to retire. So our staff knew that in anticipation for this, we asked to go out to look for this type of service, not just in one area, but kind of multiple, because we knew the projects that were actually coming up and actually ongoing. At that time, it was advertised June 25th. We received up to 5 sealed documents, and those were reviewed. And actually, these are the two next items will be the 2 top companies that we chose that fit the requirements that we were looking for, especially in their fields.
I'd go ahead and move to approve contract number PS 20190047 for the on-call civil engineering support services. Oh wait, no, I'm reading the wrong one. Richard Powers Engineering Consulting in an amount not to exceed $58,000 to be funded out of the accounts 10-61-51234, Public Works Contractual Services, number 50-80-51234, Water Contractual Services, and 5180-51234, Wastewater Contractual Services, with possible WIFA reimbursement and or grant reimbursement.
I would second that with the comment that Rick Powers Engineering has done much work for us in the past, and it's always been very quality work.
Yes, actually, I kind of had a couple side notes I probably should add on to. Richard Powers actually has worked with us in our bridge analysis through Jacobs actually previously, and getting us even in helping us in aid. He's recently been in some of these meetings that we had. Actually, he walked me through my first CAG meeting last week, just kind of going through the vetting because Mr. Barnes is on vacation. The other thing is he's actually really involved with he's got the ADOT experience, contacts local and state, which always is beneficial for us, you know, in phone calls and meetings. And not only that, his history here in the area, it goes back working with Stan Gibson, you know, laying out Round Mountain Park, and that's why you'll see his name and picture. And so he's had a lot of community involvement, Downtown Association and the Rotary. So he's really, you know, he's invested in our community as well.
Mr. Vice Mayor, members of council, he also has grant writing experience, and so we can utilize him if there's something good coming forward. He's strong grant writing skills, and that's always a skill that we're always looking to have, because that can bring in money.
Okay. Oh, Freddie?
I just have a quick question. Do you know if he has a PE, a stamp, a professional engineer's stamp?
Yes, he does.
He does? Okay. Okay, good.
Any other comments? I have a motion and a second. All in favor signify aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Any abstaining? Motion passes. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
And you're up for the next one.
Yes, sir.
Item F, consideration of possible approval of contract number PS-2019-0047 for an on-call civil engineering support services of Tally Ho Engineering in the amount not to exceed $58,000 to be funded from account number 10-61512234, Public Works Contractual Services, number 50-80512234, Water Contractual Services, and 51-80512234, Wastewater Contractual Services with possible WIFA reimbursement and/or grant reimbursement. John?
Hey, this next company we actually wanted to bring forward to you is actually, of course, Tally Ho, and I believe the apple doesn't fall far from the tree because it's Talmadge Hanson. This is Larry Hanson's son. He actually has done a lot of work. He's done previous work with the City of Globe and helping to put our GIS system together with their signage and striping grants. That's actually one of the reasons too, actually going forward. He's currently, you know, I think it would be a great relationship only for the fact that I asked for a few bullet points from him, and I actually got a 2-page cover, you know, of what he's got on the board or what he was really ready to work on. So he's actually sitting back here in the audience. So I just would, like I said, he's great work so far, you know, and he's been very involved not only with our work with Public Works and in the community. Actually moved down from Dallas, correct? Yes, and he's actually in the process of acquiring a building, so here in town, downtown. So the investment's already taken forward. So we'll welcome him to our community.
And Mr. Vice Mayor, members of council, he is also a master's degree at PE, formerly worked for the city of Dallas, and so strong credentials outside of Globe. And so those are real important to us, and was a winner there. So each of these contracts will be about, I think, 20 hours a week? I think is what is, not 20 hours, we're averaging about 20, so neither of these will be full-time people. And we'll use them as we need them, and it'll go in lumps, but having two different people that have different skill sets depending on what we need, who's available, and who's best at the job. It gives us that diversity of skill sets, so we have, you know, what we need when we need it.
So I move that we go ahead and approve item F, and thank you for buying a building in our downtown and paint it.
Yeah. You buy the first one, you get the second one half price.
Oh.
Don't listen to him.
I'll second that motion.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor signify aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Any abstaining? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Item G, consideration of possible approval of contract number PS-2019-0048 to Arcadius Design and Consulting for an on-call electrical engineering services in the amount of $25,000 total, to be funded out of the account number 50-80512234, Water Contractual Services, and account number 51-805123 wastewater contractual service.
Mr. Vice Mayor, members of council, before Vince starts, I just want to let you know that you can tell that Jeannie completed the budget because this is a whole bevy of contractual work that she got put together in time for this meeting because she wasn't working on the budget. So that's why you're seeing a lot of these come forward at this point. So you go ahead, Vince.
Thank you. Good evening again. Again, we went out in April asking for council approval to go out for an RSOQ of a on-call electrical engineer. We found out that we had a lot of electrical projects coming up, and we always had to go out, and it took us a while to get a contract for engineers. So we went and asked for an on-call, just like we did our survey. You guys approved it. And then we ended up getting a few submissions, and we found 2 that we liked that fit our scope that we provided. And Arcadis was one of them, and now I'm asking for approval of their contract to be an on-call electrical engineer.
And we went out for 2 on each category. That way we kind of have a backup. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. That way, like if we had a project and they were booked, they couldn't get it, so we had someone backup to go to. So
Without having to hold up everything to
Yeah.
go to bid and
Exactly.
blah, blah. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if there are no questions or comments, Vince, I know that you and Jerry and your staff have been doing a lot of work to get these contracts through and done, so I appreciate all that effort. I know it takes a while, but I think it's going to be a good thing in the end. So, again, if there are no questions or comments, I motion to approve contract PS 2019-0071 with Kimley Horn and Associates for on-call electrical service.
Well, I think
engineering.
We're on G.
Yeah.
It's almost exactly the same. Just which one went up further.
You skipped one.
Thank you so much for catching that. You have it?
Yeah, it's right here.
Can we do a 2 for 1?
Here it is.
So it's G.
Let me rephrase that. Consideration, well, that's not the,
Should be G.
Item G.
yeah, but I'm looking for the motion, I'm sorry.
Right here.
I apologize.
Here you go.
Thank you so much. I motion to approve contract PS 2019-0048 to Acadius Design and Consulting for the on-call electrical engineering service in the amount of $25,000 total to be funded out of account 50-80-51234 water contractual services and account 5180-51234 wastewater contractual services. And thanks for the help.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. All in favor signify aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? Any abstaining? Motion passes.
Oh, thanks for catching that.
Oh, I did the same thing. So.
I know.
They were exactly, and you switched.
Really?
Just trying to make sure everybody's awake.
Item H, this isn't 2 weeks ago. Consideration of possible approval of contract number PS-2019-0071 for the on-call electrical engineering services with Kimley Horn and Associates in the amount of $25,000 total to be funded out of account number 50-80-51234 water contractual services and account number 51-80-51234 wastewater contractual services. Vince?
Hi.
Now can I make my motion?
Yes, sir. Do you guys want me to?
Go ahead, you have the floor.
No, well, I'm back here again. Yeah. on-call
Ditto, different company.
Exactly. I don't even know what to say.
Now, neither one of these are like local, right? There's like no electrical engineering. Okay.
One thing I did want to mention though about Arcadis, can I say that?
Yeah, they're good.
Zane Wilsterman, he was one of our electrical engineers and he now works for Arcadis. So he knows our system and what we do up here. He's done a lot of work at the sewer plant already. So he knows Globe. So
That helps.
Yes, it did.
Did you not get any local bids?
We don't have any electrical engineers here. So if there was, it it would have been awesome.
Okay, then I will move to approve contract PS 2019-0071 for on-call electrical engineering services from Kimley Horn and Associates in the amount of $25,000 total to be funded out of account number 50-80-51234, water contractual services, and account number 51-80-51234, wastewater contractual services.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor signify aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Any abstaining? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vince.
Next on the agenda is late agenda items. Presentation by Paul, the late agenda
Yes.
policy.
Yeah, Mr. Vice Mayor, members of council, this is a new item on the agenda. It's called the late agenda items. We administratively, we've initiated a new policy or administrative policy for agenda deadlines. Right now, we have a fairly hard agenda deadline. So for a Tuesday meeting, everything needs to be out of finance, out of legal, out of my approval, and into Agenda Quick by midnight on the Wednesday prior to the Tuesday. And so that way, Thursday morning, the clerk, Shelley, can come in and she can assemble her packet. She can get the signature she needs from Bill Sims, and she can get them in the right order. Then we sit down, Shelley and I go through, think about the order of how it's going, what needs to be on, the way the rules, anything like that, what guests are coming forward, do we have the PowerPoints, things like that. She can put that together and then finalize that agenda fairly easily and get it distributed before 5 o'clock on the Thursday before the Tuesday. And a lot of comments, the most common comment is thank you for my weekend back, because now with the agendas going out on Thursday, council has that Friday to look at those and then ponder it over the weekend. Now, and so we've done that, and that pushes staff having to get our hard deadlines and get our things in. Now, we in a realistic world, trying to be the flexible government that we want to be, there are times when things, and this has happened before, that things have ended up on a Tuesday agenda that we didn't know about until Friday, or things that have happened. So what we put together as part of this as a fail-safe is something we're calling a late agenda policy. So if after that agenda deadline drops, if staff or I come forward, or council comes forward with something that we believe is a significant cost to the city or a compelling community need that needs to be on that agenda, I mean, we will pull special meetings together. So it seems like we need to have that flexibility, but we don't want to abuse that and just load things on. Now, what would happen is that for that late agenda policy, it would be put on the Monday afternoon, and then we would post that, because the deadline to post for a Tuesday meeting is Monday at 6, so we would put that on Monday afternoon. The staff report to do a late agenda item requires the staff person who's presenting to explain in the staff report and explain to council at the meeting why this is a compelling need, what the significant cost or compelling need is, why it was late, what would happen if it didn't go, get considered, and then staff and then council has the ability to say, I think this is important and we need to consider it, or no, it didn't make the deadline, I think this can wait to the next meeting. It's a high hurdle to come forward for a staff member and make the case not to approve the item, but just to accept this. And one of the things that we put on this is that council has every right to not consider a late agenda item. But we believe the only things that are going to make it on the late agenda items are things that you would obviously say, oh my gosh, yes, this is important, and something, we're going to miss an opportunity, an event's not going to happen, we're going to lose significant amount of money, which is something we need to do. And so it gives you that right to say yay or nay to consider it, and then if you do consider it, then it's on the agenda, it's legal and ready to go. I don't see this agendas coming forward that things that we just didn't get things accomplished in time. Those are going to have to be pushed. It's only going to be where there really is truly a cost or a community need that's going to be not met. And so I wanted to explain that. My goal is that there'd be nothing that we would put on here that you wouldn't say in a heartbeat, oh yeah, that had to go. You know, that was important. And I think that's the standard that I'm setting with staff. And there will be some times where we're gonna have some grumbly, you know, there's things happen and it's hard to get these agenda items through here. And we're going to have some things that we may have to back something up or something like that. But if it'd be council will be the one saying, if you think this is being abused, I am perfectly confident, just as in the way of the rule, you'll speak up and say, you know, I think we're abusing this thing. And this is something that Shelley had brought back that Scottsdale does. Yeah, it's a practice that Scottsdale uses for this very moment. It's let's say many agendas are much further ahead the deadlines. We're a smaller city, we have some more flexibility, but you can't expect the clerk to put together a solid, you know, quality agenda when things are still being mailed in as she's building the packet. And so there's no action, there's no direction I'm looking for, just informational. And you know, we'll see if when something does come up that is considered a late item, I think you'll see how the process works. So
I mean, obviously we're going to follow the same process. We'll have a second read if it was.
Well, it depends on where the agenda item is. It is possible to bring it forward and do away with the rule, even for a late item. It may be something that we had started 4 months ago, and all of a sudden it's like, boom, we got a deadline, we got to get going. Even like grant applications, a lot of times we can ratify grants. You know, we don't need to have that. You know, they don't need to bring forward. But I don't know what the scenario would be, but I do know there are certain things that if we don't do it on that meeting, something bad is going to happen. We will miss an opportunity, a window, something, or the community will miss out on something. I don't.
So chances are it would be a waive the rule kind of a discussion.
Yeah. We're putting on late agenda. We're probably going to waive the rule.
Okay.
Okay. So because if we don't need to, if this can come back, why would you just wait till it's come back, waive the rule then?
Right.
So doing the math on that one.
I just think we need to tell Shelley that we really hope this helps you, because we really do appreciate how many Fridays and Friday nights and Saturday mornings you've had to be here doing agendas that you shouldn't have to do that. So this will help a lot. Thank you.
And I will tell you that the person that everybody knew, the person that's going to be most impacted by this is myself, because I am the biggest, you know, late agenda, you know, rabbit out of my hat guy. I know. So
the biggest abuser?
Yeah. I was abuser, I would say. Abuser me. If you notice that the deadline is not, you know, Wednesday at 5, but it's Wednesday at midnight. So you know who that was written for. So this is informational only, but I did want to share with it and show, because it is appearing on the agenda. So thank you.
All right, item number 9, scheduling of meetings, which may be brought up at this time.
Yeah, Mr. Vice Mayor, members of council, this is a special meeting. We will have a meeting again in a week. Our agenda deadline for that is tomorrow night at midnight. And so, got that burned in my brain. And but I just wanted to let you know, then after that, it'll be a 3-week, because it's a 5 Tuesday thing. We won't be till the 13th. And Shelley is pointing out that we do have a schedule on there further down after adjournment. So we'll go July 23rd, August 13th, and August 27th. And I did want to note that on August 13th, I think it was on the PowerPoint, we will bring back the final adoption of the property tax. We're making no discernible changes. The rate is going down because the assessment went up and the levy is the same, but we do need to have a separate standalone vote on that, and that'll wrap up totally the budget process for the year. But the heavy lifting is done with the passage of the final budget.
I spoke with the mayor the other day, and he does want to schedule a joint council meeting with Miami again.
And
to be held in Globus.
Right. And we looked at the week of the 30th, and I don't believe that we can pull that off with some scheduling. I think we need to sit with and call either Mayor Dolly or
30th
Joe.
of July or the 30th of August?
30th of July.
I don't think it has to be that soon.
Well, the thought.
The talk is about that we need to. It's been a while since we.
Yeah. No, I think there are a lot of issues. They have a new council. We have new members of the council. I think our hope was to try to, since we're sharing a booth and be seeing each other in at the League of Cities, that we have it before that. I don't think we can pull that off though. So, but we will get one as soon as we can get both schedules aligned.
Vice Mayor? So today I called and talked to city manager, and I wanted to try to get the community pride group that we had, the town halls, and try to get that group together to see what they would like to do. So we were trying to figure out the best way to move forward. We were thinking maybe possibly doing another like town hall to invite all citizens that are interested in maybe being a part of something, and then at that meeting kind of discuss possible ways forward, whether it's just an advisory group, somebody working on their own that then would make presentations, or whether you form a nonprofit or whatever, that to be determined, and to see who's actually interested in staying engaged. So I didn't know what the council's pleasure was.
Are we discussing this under scheduling and meetings?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay, future meetings, yeah.
So if council would like to schedule a meeting of the task force, then we can indicate that we pull together that schedule of meeting, we can run with that. So what is council's pleasure? Would you like to see another task force meeting?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you think the evening one was better attended than the daytime one? Did those at two different times?
Yes, but we did them both on purpose because there are people that can come during the day that can't come in an evening, and vice versa. But I think with the amount of people that we got that left their names and were interested in being engaged, we had something to work with, and then we would publicize it so anyone who didn't get a chance to come to those that wants to be engaged can. Yeah, and I don't know what the outcome will be. I mean, but that's kind of the way to figure it out.
So are you thinking an evening, you're thinking one of each again, or one meeting?
I think both worked out really well.
Why not?
Yeah, it can't hurt. And then once we get names of people who want to do what, then we can then decide how to best move forward.
And so to Ms. Vice Mayor, members of council, then do we have any idea, so time, date, location be here, we're looking as soon as possible, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I mean, we just got to make sure we can get it in the media so that people know about it.
Okay.
But I don't think I just don't want to go too long, because we had some people that were really wanting to get involved and help contribute to making Globe a better place to live. And I just figure we ought to tap into that while that enthusiasm is there.
That momentum, yeah.
2 weeks is ample time to get it to the media.
I think 2 weeks would be ample time to schedule maybe the first one.
Yeah.
So between the July 23rd and August 13th meeting, maybe?
Was our trip to, so
We don't have anything the first week of August, right? For here.
So it jumps from the 23rd to the 13th. July 23rd, next Tuesday, is our next meeting, then we jump till the 13th of August. We have some time in between. So if we want to shoot in between.
Yeah, I think we could shoot. We could see what the chamber is available, and then what we can get out to the media.
So we have travel scheduled on the 7th, 8th, and 9th. So we have the 5th and 6th of August available. On the week prior to that, that's available. That whole week is open. And then on the week of the 12th is a council meeting on the 13th. The week of the 19th, we have the League of Cities in Tucson, and that starts between Tuesday and Wednesday, depending on who's showing up when. So I think the strongest. I mean, would council like to shoot for the 6th of August?
What is the day of the week?
Tuesday.
A Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's our off.
The chambers isn't being used on a Tuesday? Because I know the courts does their stuff in here, right?
Is this the daytime or the nighttime version?
Oh, I don't know. We can do it either way. We could do one. I just don't know. I don't want to book it and then find out we can't use it.
We did a Tuesday morning, then a Thursday evening.
Yeah.
I think that sounds about right. Yeah.
And I'm trying to see if I can pull up the event or the room calendar.
And then the other one we could probably do after we get back from the league.
Danny, can you see the? Well, you have the conference room calendar. Do we have a chamber calendar? We don't have a chamber calendar. Yeah. Kelly, do you know if there's anything scheduled on that Tuesday?
I don't.
Yeah.
So I can go look
If
at
it's
my
blank, can we just put ourselves there and then?
Well, and so Tuesday, would you like to start with the morning or the 10 o'clock or the 6 o'clock?
I think we should follow what we did before.
So do the 10 o'clock?
Tuesday at 10 and Thursday at 6.
Okay, so Thursday many of us will be at the Rural Policy Forum.
It'll have to be a couple weeks out.
So then the Thursday, the next available Thursday would be, we do the 15th, which is the same Tuesday as the council meeting, but that's wide open. So we could do the
13th is a Tuesday.
yeah, so we're doing the 6th for the morning Tuesday meeting and the 15th for the evening Thursday meeting.
You want to spread it out that far though?
It's only
Only a week.
Yeah, but I don't really have much choice, so because we're kind of booked. And I think what I'll do is try to talk to Genesis because they already formed a nonprofit, so that they could be like someone who gives us information on what they did and how it works for them, and would they do it again or not do it again, and so we could look at our options.
So then tentative is on August 6th, Tuesday, August 6th at 10 o'clock, and Thursday, August 15th at 6 o'clock. Did you get that? Okay, good. And give council, let's send those out so council can double check your schedules. I mean, does everybody have access to their schedules and know they're clear? Yeah. And so I just got to check with the mayor.
You're so funny. Does everybody have access to their schedules right now?
Yeah.
Did you want me to do that on my phone? You know that's
Yeah.
funny.
No.
Yeah, the phone's smarter than I am. I can't do that. No, it's true. He knows it.
Well, and because
I'll go home and look on the real calendar that's
Okay.
hanging on the wall.
we're gonna give 24 hours and we'll reconfirm with
Sounds
Giles
good.
and the mayor.
Are we the real calendar? The one that hangs on the wall. Is it 6 o'clock or 7? The evening one? Didn't we
I
do?
think we did 6. Yeah. We figured it'd give people a chance to get here after work.
Okay.
Next on the agenda is future agenda items. Agenda topics the council members would like to see on the agenda may be brought up at this time.
Oh, I thought that's what I just did. I jumped the gun. Sorry. Sorry.
Thanks, Fernando.
My bad. Trying to rush it up. Hurry up.
To members of council, many of the items that we had talked about in the past month will be coming up, some on the 23rd, some on the 13th. I know there's about 3 items that were council requested that will be coming up on those 2 meetings. I know the volunteer program, I know the art commission, that'll be on the 23rd, volunteer, and then dog and cat. The dog and cat, what to do if you have a stray dog or cat. But I don't think they're gonna make the deadline for the meeting on the 23rd, so that'll probably go on the 13th. Then that's Dale and Michelle. So the 13th will be the big catch-up day for items that been requested prior.
Special event.
That's on the 23rd.
On the 23rd.
Yeah, that's on the 23rd. That's that one. And we're trying to get the, Dale, did you hear anything from liquor control?
Liquor control will be here to give a presentation.
On the 23rd?
Yeah, and I'll be making a time.
No. Yeah.
They I didn't understand. Did
They'll
you
be
say
here
they
on-
will?
Yes.
They will be here.
I will be covering stuff on the county control with them tomorrow, but they're already scheduled.
23rd.
Yeah. So no, that we will. I mean, and that'll be a major portion of the presentation.
Okay.
I think that'll. We're seeing with the presentation we have, we know the questions and liquor control. We're looking about an hour presentation there.
Okay.
So, but we do know that part of the policy is trying to keep meetings 3 hours or less.
You are?
Yeah. Well, Shelley is. I am.
Good job, Shelley.
Good luck on that 23rd.
So,
Okay, then on to the next.
Yep.
Keep it rolling. Call to the public, second call. Do we have any cards? Okay. Then the executive session, do I have a motion to join into?
Motion made.
Session?
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor signify aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Or no, I jumped the gun.
Are,
Any opposed, nay? Any abstaining? Motion passes.
And just notification to the public that when we come out of E-session, we'll go straight to adjournment. There'll be no other, no action items or discussion.